Hey everyone, and welcome to RPG Horror Stories with DnD Doge. In today's video, we have a story about two players simping on the only female player during a game of Dungeons & Dragons. A story about a new player being kicked from the table in Session 1, and more. But before we get into that, Ziggy the Wise would like you to roll a crit on that like button and subscribe if you aren't already. Right, Ziggy?
Hi, Sereno Calto Oshite Cudazai.
Such wisdom. But with that said, let's get into these stories. A Tale of Two That Guys by Reddit user Germany Strong. This story begins with two problem players who can't keep their in-real-life crush on another player out of the game, and ends with one problem player genuinely apologizing and changing his behavior, and another revealing himself to be a total piece of crap and potential predator, who I genuinely never want to see again in D&D or in life, period. Our game started up a couple months ago when me and a couple of regulars that I had grown close to at a game shop decided to play D&D during the summer, since I had just graduated high school and now had quite a bit of free time on my hands. The first problem player is actually another guy that I went to school with. We met in our school's gaming club in my junior year, his senior year. He played as a half-elf ranger. The second problem player was a 32-year-old weeb who pretty much embodies the stereotype of a horny bard, but in a much more cringe and socially awkward way. And of course, he ends up playing a horny dragonborn bard with a bunch of anime flavor, which was admittedly kinda cool. Now we get to the girl in question that the two meatheads would fight over. She was a close friend of mine who was in film club with me my senior year and had just graduated high school as well. So I mentioned to her about the D&D group, and she was happy to join. She played as a moon druid, and I was playing as a fighter. Before we even started the game, the two guys were clearly smitten, and both players would come to bring their feelings for her into the game. Weeb would do this in a simpy milady type of way, usually by using himself as a human shield, including at times when his HP was way too low. He actually died twice doing this, and it put the party in a precarious situation a couple of times. Obviously, no one, especially Film Club Girl, liked this. Nor did she like his over-the-top, in and out of game romantic gestures that would come out of the blue, like randomly bringing her flowers. He just didn't seem to get that she was not interested. Gamer Club Guy had this bad boy a-hole flirt vibe about him, both in-game and out-of-game towards her. It was equally unsavory though. He flirted like a guy who just watched the wrong type of dating coach on YouTube and thinks that being a dick is attractive. He was also aggressive towards Weeb's character, both in and out of game. He called Weeb, quote, Dollar Store Leonardo DiCaprio. Yes, he actually thought that nickname was funny, in reference to the age gap and to imply that he is ugly. It came to a head when Gamer Club Guy, still a ranger, decided to PvP Weeb's cleric. Again, Weeb died quite a few times. This was despite Film Club Girl's protest. Ranger killed cleric and then laughed at him and called his build pathetic. This pissed off Weeb, and the two began to argue in real life, until Film Club Girl firmly told them both to cut it out, and that this weird in-game flirtation is getting annoying, and that she was not interested in either one of them. Weeb just kinda hung his head in shame, and Gamer Club Guy stormed out of the game shop. The Dungeon Master decided to end the session to let everyone cool off. I asked Film Club Girl how she was doing, and she said she's doing better. She feels bad about having to make a scene like that, but it was just getting too out of hand, and the dynamic was just too uncomfortable. She told me though that Weeb texted her to apologize for his behavior throughout the campaign. She accepted his apology, but Gamer Club Guy was another story. Apparently, he had texted her about how effed up it was to reject him publicly like that, and humiliate him at the same time, and that he was always good to her, and that he didn't deserve this. The following session, Weeb was a lot more well behaved. He rolled up a new fighter and was a cooperative, friendly player to all of us. I wish I could say the same about Gamer Club Guy though. He came back bitter and more rude towards Film Club Girl. The entire session, he was spiteful, asking the DM to punish her for innocuous crap under the guise of being a stickler for the rules. He never did this to any of the rest of us, despite me and the other 3 players also bending rules, like disregarding arrow inventory until reminded. He would also be a dick to her in character. He justified this change by claiming that Ranger had gotten more serious about his monotheistic religion and found Druid's naturalistic paganism, as he called it, to be blasphemous. This behavior continued for session upon session. We would all advocate for her against his BS rules lawyering and more in-character hostile behavior. Behavior that would continue to escalate until Ranger basically saw Druid as an enemy. He eventually found a pretext to attack her after she found a magic item with religious significance to both the Druid and the Ranger. He attacked her at night when all of us were taking a long rest. I remember asking him, "What the F are you doing?" And he said, "She is a filthy pagan and is trying to usurp my god's holy magic item." We all try to wake up and stop him, but Ranger says, "Stop metagaming, you wouldn't hear this. I'm quiet as a mouse." So the Dungeon Master has us roll perception against his perception at advantage, to which he unfortunately wins. Wait, shouldn't the party have rolled perception against the Ranger's stealth here? They have a PvP in which the DM refuses to even let us roll perception again during this long-ass fight to see if we hear the damn blades clanking and spells going off. Unfortunately, Ranger wins the battle and Gamer Club Guy starts cheering in the middle of the game shop like a total jackass. But unfortunately, that is not the worst part. After she's on the ground, he says, "Before she rolls a single death save, I pull down my pants and whip out my dick." Dude, what the actual fuck? My eyes widened and I was in shock. Weeb said, "Dude, shut the F up." And me and another player also lay into him, but the a-hole just shrugs and says, "It's what my character would do." And then finishes describing the disgusting things he did to her character as the Dungeon Master just sat there like a dolt. Film Club Girl gets up and says that she's leaving. Me, Weeb, and the other player tried to follow her, but she told us not to. We respected her wishes, and the Dungeon Master said, "Yeah, you went a bit too far," to Gamer Club Guy. "Let's end this session and we'll just retcon the whole thing next week." Weeb told DM that he refuses to play with that piece of crap, and we all agreed. Obviously, Gamer Club Guy got super offended and accused Weeb of just saying that because he is a simp for her, and the rest of us were apparently betas. He also called Film Club Girl an oversensitive C-word, and that he was just playing true to his character. What an effing liar. It really took all of my strength not to try to knock him out. Dungeon Master tried to keep saying, "Let's just wait till next week and talk about this," but I just shook my head and left. The Dungeon Master really disappointed me. He never has been good at conflict resolution, but come on. I texted Film Club Girl and asked her how she was feeling, and after we talked a bit about her feelings, she said that she is fine now, but she is not coming back to the game store, even if we kick him out. She doesn't want to take the chance of running into him again, as he apparently texted her a bunch of angry sexist messages, calling her every slur in the book, and weird angry messages about how ungrateful she was, and how he'd, quote, treat her right, and sexually satisfy her. She blocked him though, and her parents have recently bought top-notch home security in response. The next day, we tell the game store owner what happened, and he bans Gamer Club Guy from the store. About 2 weeks later, she came back to the game store. Since Gamer Club Guy was banned from the store, she felt more comfortable returning, and we continued playing the game without Gamer Club Guy. and I haven't spoken to him since. TLDR: 2 overly flirtatious players make a girl feel uncomfortable. One of them changes after he realizes that she is uncomfortable, though the other acts like an entitled prick and essays her character. So we get him banned from the store and continue playing without him. Damn, that sounded like a nightmare of a game for the female player. Though at least we let up after she let them know how she didn't like those 2 coming onto her. Gamer Club guy, however, just got jaded to the point of trying to pull what he did in game to her character. At that point, the Dungeon Master should have put a stop to it, and I can agree with OP that even though the DM wasn't good at conflict resolution, that something like that should have still been stopped. It is good to hear that everything got resolved after they told the store owner about Gamer Club guy and had him banned from the store, and then Film Club girl felt comfortable enough to return and resume the game. Let's move on to the next one. That guy got booted out of the house after trying to capture an NPC. By Reddit user, Slowest of All Pokes. I'm not really a Reddit guy, but a week ago, I had an encounter with that guy, and more importantly, I want to share with you how our DM handled the situation. To this day, we, as a group, played since 2019 in a rotating style where everyone was DMing for 1 or 4 sessions in an overarching plot with reoccurring NPCs, locations, etc. The details of our characters are not really that important, but we were 4 players, and all long-term friends, with one of us as the DM. A mutual friend of us that we mostly have known from high school had recently gotten in touch with us and wanted to try out role-playing games. He had no prior experiences with the game outside of some podcasts and some board games, but wanted to give it a try since he heard that you can do anything you want in these games. This now ex-friend will be referred to as that guy. We had no problems with him being new to the game. We were all experienced, so we could all teach him. We weren't strict on the rules anyways. He rolled up a half-orc barbarian with everything in strength. His backstory was rather lackluster, but we let it slide since he was new. Game day rolled around, and we met at the DM's apartment. As usual, everyone brought snacks and/or drinks, and we started off by giving a brief explanation of the setting and where we are. His character was introduced to us in-game by having him lift the wagon of some friendly NPCs that got trapped during our encounter at the last session. We were pretty beaten up from the last tumble with some cultists, and made our way to a local hospital, since healing potions and/or magical healing was kind of expensive in this setting. Low magic, where only the rich can afford magical treatments. Skipping forward 2 hours, and we had some roleplay moments with that guy, which were honestly pretty nice. But then this happened. Our DM described a young female doctor with strange tattoos trying to bandage our wounds, but failing at that miserably. So much so that everyone got suspicious. That was the DM's plan. The idea was that we would figure out that this NPC wasn't a doctor at all, but a spy of the cultists from earlier that tried to, well, spy on us while we were recovering. Since Barbarian wasn't injured, he was just a visitor at the hospital and could investigate and interrogate the woman to get the information on where the cultists are located, something that we failed at last time since all the cultists died in the battle. This would have given Barbarian the chance to establish himself in the group, and also got himself some solo spotlight time and a nice experience as a new player. But that guy had other plans. He followed the woman into a room and locked it shut. Then he described how he towered over the young helpless female, his exact words, to interrogate her. Our DM, seeing the red flags flying, changed tone and told him that there was no need for interrogation, since the woman was intimidated by the barbarian and quickly confesses to being part of the cultist. Then that guy describes how he grabs the woman by the wrist and pulls her towards him, hurting her in the process. He started with, "You are now my prisoner, and you will do anything I say." Understand? There was a moment of silence, as well as a glaring stare of disbelief from our DM. You could practically see how everyone was lost for words, and that guy had the most devious grin on his face. Our DM closed his eyes for a moment and sighed, and then he said in the in-game voice of the woman, "No, we are not doing this." That guy was about to say something, but was cut short by the DM stating, "You hear a flick of her fingers, then you feel an overwhelming force grabbing you by the wrist, just where you grabbed the woman prior. You feel how the force is ready to twist your arm and breaking it. Calmly, the woman evases your grip and says, 'First and only chance. You leave. You are not welcome back,' while the DM points in real life at the apartment door." At this point, I should explain that the DM is around 192 centimeters tall and is built like a real-life barbarian. He holds the stare, and nobody says anything. That guy gets up, packs his belongings, and leaves, leaving only his character sheet behind. DM followed him towards the exit to make sure that he left for good, came back, grabbed the sheet, and ripped it into pieces. We took a break and watched some YouTube to unwind afterwards. Well, that is one way to get rid of that guy. The DM could see where Barbarian was going with this, and did what he thought was best to snip it in the bud right away. Now, could the Dungeon Master have just given a warning that that wouldn't be allowed in the game? Sure. Maybe take him aside and give a rundown on what wouldn't be allowed in the game before he started, as kind of a one-on-one session 0, especially with the way that Barbarian said he was excited because he could do anything in the game. Honestly, that should have been the first red flag. Though, what do you think? Did the Dungeon Master do the right thing by just kicking Barbarian right then and there? Or do you think he should have just gotten a warning to not do it again, and let Barbarian continue? Be sure to let me know in the comments, as I'm honestly curious on this one. Let's move on. Player almost TPK's entire party, then wants the DM to come up with why his character possibly would have done this. By Reddit user xDraculich. The title explains it all, but I'll go into details. I've been DMing this group for about 4 years now. They were all new at the time, so I decided to run Lost Mines of Phandelver for them. Spoilers for that adventure. You've been warned. The players had finally arrived at the BBEG's lair, and after his evil speech, the battle breaks out. So far, so good. During the fight, our Barbarian, the player this is about, kills 2 giant spiders, which is great. At this point, our Wizard is low and has almost no spell slots left. The Cleric and Ranger are downed and are rolling death saves, and the Rogue has just been stunned. At this point, it's just the Bard 1v1ing the BBEG, who I had buffed up from the original adventure. So yeah, they could really use the Barbarian to either help people up or kill the BBEG. However, the Barbarian instead asks the DM, me, to describe the room again, and after I mentioned that there's a 9-foot tall statue of a dwarf seated on a throne located up against the back wall, he asks to make an investigation check. I ask what he's trying to investigate for, and he tells me, "I want to investigate to see if I can tip the statue over and have it land on the BBEG." I let him roll, and he rolls an 18, so I tell him, "The statue depicting Dumathoin is old and carries 2 shining emerald gems where his eyes are supposed to be. Given that the statue is 9 feet tall, and the BBEG is currently 35 feet away from you, it's clear that you won't be able to tip it over and have it land on the BBEG. It also seems too heavy to lift, even for you." As I finish describing this, he tells me, "I roll to see if I understand this," and rolls immediately before I can tell him that he already rolled for that. That was the investigation check. He rolls an 11 on this new roll, and decides that his character can't understand it. He then describes how his character starts trying to push the statue to tip it over. The fight continues, and he keeps pushing at the statue, trying to lodge and push it over, until he eventually lands a nat 20, 3-player turns after the BBEG is defeated. I sigh as I describe how he manages to push it over, the stone crackling and the gems falling out, which according to the adventure, triggers a chain reaction that causes the ceiling to collapse, and each player must make a DC 15 dex save or take 4d10 bludgeoning damage, half upon success. The rogue, the ranger, and the barbarian all fail, while the bard and cleric succeed. The wizard asked if he could misty step out of the room via the open door, so I said yes. The outcome is that only the wizard and the bard got out of it with more than 5 HP. The cleric got knocked back to 1 HP, but survived. However, the rogue and the ranger both straight up died, while the barbarian got knocked unconscious. "You need to figure out why my barbarian would have done this," the barbarian player says. At this point, everyone is confused and panicking as the group only has one scroll of Revivify, and is trying to figure out who to use it on. They're also angry with the barbarian as he had no reason to do it. When I asked him, he said, "I don't know. Do you have any ideas for why? You're the DM." I eventually came up with a story reason for why his character did it, but I talked to the players afterwards, and they were all greatly annoyed at this behavior, because it seemed to come out of nowhere, unprompted, with no reason or explanation for why he, as a person, decided that it would be what his character would do. To this day, he still won't give an answer other than, "I don't know." Well, that is a bit baffling. Why would the player continue with his statue plan after passing the investigation check, and even roll again without being prompted? As it sounds, this was completely not something that the barbarian would do, and even the player couldn't come up with a reason for it. Maybe he was a bit afraid of getting near the BBEG or something, but he could have at least helped up some of the characters that were downed. Then to tell the DM that they need to come up with the reason that the barbarian would do it is really odd. So yeah, just baffling. But that is all I have for you today. As always, I appreciate all of you, and may your games remain horror story free. Until next time.